faculty, parents, family, and friends of these fine young men and women. And to you, the class of 2011, thank you for the invitation and opportunity to speak at your Principal Martin High School commencement ceremony. Oh my. If you had told me 1 year ago that I would be standing here getting ready to address you in this situation, I probably would have laughed out loud, been terrified, shaken my head, and said, not a chance. I still vividly remember standing down there during one of your the last chapels of your junior year and expressing my regret at the thought of missing your senior year. And while there is a part of me that still wishes I would have been with you these past several months, there are no regrets about this past year, which included, as already said, almost 8 months in South Africa, working with Mennonite Mission Network, and after 1 week back in the States, 9 days in China with Dr. Stuart and True. I would add that during this past year, I often thought of a specific part of the Christopher Doc mission statement, which reads, Christopher Doc Mennonite High School, in partnership with the family and the church, seeks to develop the God-given abilities of students in preparation for responsible stewardship of life as members of God's people in a global society. After this past year, I would add that it attempts to prepare its faculty as well. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Picture this. It was the spring of 2006, the year after my mom had passed away, and I was driving home from Doc. Often I would call my father on the way home from work, and we would simply visit. I would ask how his day had gone, and he would ask about my work day. Basically, it was our time to catch up and check in with each other. It was our time. Now, previous to this particular day, I had been asked to serve on the board of directors at Bethel College in Northwood, Kansas, as a representative of the Mennonite Education Agency. In my head, I had many reasons why I should and would not do it. Cost, time, and energy were among them. Well, as I was driving home that day, I decided to ask my father what he thought. I knew he would be proud of the fact that I had been asked and that he would encourage me to accept. But I also thought I knew what he would say, so I had all the reasons lined up in my head as to why and how I would say no. As a sidebar, I would add that my parents had the uncanny ability to ask just that right, simple question at just that right time. They would ask the question that, in reality, provided a clarifying answer. To this day, I still don't know how they did it. Back to the drive along 63, Sony Town Pike, just past Shelley Road, heading towards Green Lane. I was speaking to my dad on the phone, and I let him know I had a question for him, and I sought his advice. I let him know that I'd been asked by Bethel to serve on its board. I listed some of the reasons why not to, and to make it appear like I had not yet made up my mind, although I really had, I also let him know some of the reasons why I should. He listened patiently to me without interruption. And then, when I was done, he simply asked, why wouldn't you? Your church school has asked you to serve. Why wouldn't you? Well, all the planned answers and retorts simply left my head. I could think of nothing to say. I went blank. You have been asked to serve. Why wouldn't you? Well, that one simple question, why wouldn't you, has allowed me to look at the world and my place in it in a completely different manner. That one simple question has opened up my worldview and allowed for opportunities that I might have otherwise declined. And that simple question has allowed me to see those opportunities in a completely different light. Now, don't hear me wrong. I'm not saying that you should say yes to everything. There are certainly times when you should and you must say no. But when there is opportunity in front of you, and perhaps at times that opportunity has been put there by God, how can you say no? Why wouldn't you? Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. What a source of encouragement. The Lord your God, my God, our God, will be with us wherever we go. As I left for South Africa, I must confess my perceptions of the country came from basically two sources. One, the media growing up and the reporting on international issues like apartheid, minority white rule, sports and product boycotts, and people like Nelson Mandela, Bishop Desmond Tutu, or Pip Walton. The second source, the book The Covenant by James Michener. And for those of you who have read him, you know that he has an amazing ability to make facts from fiction, to create and weave the story of history. I was asked to spend about 8 months in Phillipstown, a small and some would say declining town in a large, vast area of the North Cape in South Africa. The North Cape is the largest of the provinces by size, but the smallest in population. The horizon stretches for miles in all directions. It is comprised of few towns, but massive sheep farms, white-owned, most which have been passed down from generation to generation. It is an area that is relatively conservative in outlook and still deeply religious. Phillipstown, specifically, used to be a thriving economic and spiritual hub in the region, but its population has fallen to a couple of thousand residents, mostly black and colored, that live in the townships of Buchanan-Sweeney, the Black Township, and Phillipsville, the colored township. There are many uninhabited and deserted buildings in this town. Unemployment stands around 70%, 70. HIV, tuberculosis, and other communicable diseases, along with substance and alcohol abuse, are rampant. Funerals are a way of life. People not infrequently going to more than one in a day. I still remember the day my neighbor across the street told me he had 5 funerals to go to that day. There are also many small home churches coming out of the Pentecostal, Charismatic, or African Independent church traditions. Most of the education and business in town is done in off the coast. And like most of the towns in this region of the country, there is a large Dutch Reformed church in the middle of the town, attended by whites only. I would like to introduce you to some of the people I've had the good fortune to meet in the past year and the lessons that have been learned from them. Have I not commanded you? Frau Boltma, she is a widowed woman in her latter 70s who, with her husband, raised her family of 4 boys in a trailer and tent for 13 and a half years in the Kalahari Desert in the north of South Africa. No running water, no electricity. She loves her church, the Old Apostles' Scatter, and is more faithful to God than anyone I have met in my life. Always ready with a friendly hello or a cup of tea, she is fair to all people. Retired, she lives on an income of 1,050 rand, or about $150 a month. I remember her telling me that as soon as she receives her monthly check, she gives her tithe, 105 rand, $15, to the church. And after she told me this, she looked at her small house, impeccably maintained, and said, "Look how good and gracious and generous God has been to me. I give just a little bit to God, and look what he has given to me in return." In the small garden outside her house is written in Afrikaans for all to see, "Dankbaar," thankful. Have I not commanded you to be strong? Amos Reed, a middle-aged man. He was released from the military when apartheid ended, as those coming into power wanted to be sure that the new army was loyal to the new South Africa. Never having been compensated for his time in the military, he has been unemployed since 1994. He is generous with his time. He loves to visit and welcome people to his town and give them tours. He has a passion for the children of Phillipstown, always expressing concern when he hears that someone is sniffing flu, not going to school, or gotten pregnant. He loves to read the Bible. He especially enjoys reading different translations of the Bible and then letting people know which one is correct. He dreams of having a small plot of land to raise garlic. He had never been in the Dutch Reformed Church for 40 years until we went there together for a concert. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Andres Foodie, 7th generation farmer on the family land, hard-working and stubborn and faithful, an entrepreneur not afraid to try something new, rebellious and liking a good fight, loves to joke and pull pranks, honest to others and insistent that others be honest with him. He had no time for anything less than direct communication. Curious and wanting to engage in conversation with people of other cultures about life, politics, economics, international affairs, the church. He didn't like Americans, but I still remember the day he stated, you have to remember, in 1994, when apartheid ended, we whites, we gained our spiritual freedom. He and his wife, a successful artist and a community development activist, are now planning to come to visit America for 3 months to do volunteer work and Mennonite their way across the country. Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Donna Montalini, teenage girl who is currently in grade 9, being raised by her grandmother and extended family, as both of her parents have died, which unfortunately is not uncommon. Sharp as a tack, she loves to laugh. One of the smartest kids in Phillipstown, she graduated at the top of her 8th grade class in multiple subject areas as well as overall. She now lives with extended family about 45 kilometers away from home in the hope of getting a slightly better education. Always a twinkle in her eye, she has a knack for language. Although not her first or even her second language, she probably speaks English better than most of us here in this auditorium. She reinforces the idea that a quality education is a way out from difficult life circumstances. She reinforces the idea that there's hope for the next generation. She wants to be a lawyer. She loves Jesus. She teaches hope. She should be a doc student now. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Len Killian, born in Namibia, former German colony, he is the community fix-it man. He receives calls all hour of the day from all segments of the community asking him to fix their cars or the refrigerators or the pumps for farmers' windmills or to borrow his tools. He and his wife always made me feel at home. We could and did talk about everything. The pros and cons of our respective countries, education, politics, society, race, and the church. He was good with his hands, but not necessarily the books. He talked about how he often got beat by his teachers. At least twice weekly, I would receive a call from him, and he would say he was making burgers or pizza or getting ready to grill some lamb at the gate over there. He works the sound system at the Dutch Reformed Church, and even though he came from a difficult background, he lives generosity to others. Have I not commanded you to be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. Mama Nellie Makaleni, my mom, while I was in South Africa. She was the widowed wife of the founding pastor of Grace Community Church, one of the places where I worked, and the mother of the current pastor. In her late 70s, she made sure that I was taken care of. I still remember my first Monday there. I had taken a co-worker from another part of the country to the bus station in neighboring town about 55 k's away. I had just driven home on a dirt road in the middle of South Africa under a glorious African night sky. Got home around 5 in the morning and went to bed. 7 o'clock, while I was still asleep, there she was, waiting outside the gate, ready to do my laundry, ready to clean the house. She invited me to her home for supper that evening and many, many more evenings. She is the one who taught me about the faith in God's healing powers as she underwent several procedures for breast cancer. After each surgery, she would say that God had healed her. And each time I was skeptical. She had faith. I had intellect. She was right. I was wrong. She was healed. And through it all, at least once a week, there she was, waiting for me to unlock the gate at 7 a.m. You see, she had made a promise to herself and to God that she would take care of the American. Have I not commanded you, be strong and courageous? Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you You need to know that I took all of you with me to South Africa. I told them the stories about you, the students, about you, the faculty, and you, the families. I let them know how we tried to work together here. I told them about our successes. I told them about our failures. As you all well know, it is so important that we learn from each other. It is vital that we understand others who are different from us, especially if we truly want to be God's people in a global society. My challenge to all of you, to all of us tonight, but especially to those of you who stand on the brink of your high school graduation, is to double-check and clarify the attitude from which you'll move from this place. Recognize that you have options in front of you that most people in this world can't even imagine. In both South Africa and China, it was made abundantly clear that many dream of the opportunity for an American education. Many would give anything to have what you have had and to have what lies before you. There are many people out there who need you and the gifts you have to offer. Yes, our world is desperate for the works and deeds you can and will perform. But I would add, you need the people of this world as much as they need you. Give freely and generously to those around you, yes, but also allow them to give freely and generously to you. Allow them to use their God-given gifts and abilities with you. You need the Andres Floyds, the Amos Reeves, the Mafral Boltomas, and the Don Marcolenis. You need the Len Killians and the Molinelli Marcolenis. And while for you, their names will be different, their impact on your lives will be just as profound. They will help make you better global citizens. And finally, in terms of attitude, I would encourage you to remember this. You don't have to. You get to. You don't have to graduate from Doc. You get to. You don't have to thank your parents and churches for sacrificially providing you the opportunity of a Doc education. You get to thank them. And as you move from this space tonight, you don't have to get a job or do service or go on to higher education. You get to. But beyond that, for all of you, for all of us, we don't have to work for peace. We get to. We don't have to fight injustice. We get to. We don't have to feed the hungry. We get to. We don't have to clothe the naked. We get to. We don't have to heal the sick. We get to. We don't have to help build the kingdom of God here and now. We get to. So, my question to each of you is, if you have the opportunity to do all of these things through all of your actions, why wouldn't you? And how will you do it? God has commanded you to be strong. God has commanded you to be courageous. You will be afraid at times, yes. You will get discouraged on occasion, yes. But the Lord, your God, will be with you wherever you go. To the class of 2011, congratulations, and thank you for the honor of spending this one last evening together. May you both feel and know that your God, our God, is with us wherever we go. Thank you.